starter. How do you make it? Okay, welcome back to Selena's Table, our little Aussie homestead. Are you ready for your sourdough journey to begin, but you do not have a starter? If you have seen my sourdough video, it is perfect for a beginner. I want to call it no fail, although I'm sure someone could fail, but it's no fail. Like, it is the easiest sourdough to make, but you need a starter, and it needs to be active and it needs to be live. And where do you get one? Well, it's a question I get a lot, and it's a video I've been meaning to put together for quite a while, and I do apologize, it's taken quite a long time. Starter. I've got a few things in front of me. This is my starter. I made 2 batches of sourdough yesterday. This is what's left. Okay, so this morning I've gotten up and now I need to feed it. How did it get to this point though? You can get your starter from multiple places. If you want to make it from scratch, I'm going to show you how. I'm also going to show you other ways to get a starter. What you're going to need is a clean jar, a lid for your jar, although it doesn't have to be tight fitting. So this is my active starter that just is hungry, ready to be fed. The lid is on it, but it's not on tight. And when you're growing your starter, you definitely don't want your lid on tight, okay? So to make your starter a clean jar, I'm going to use this whisk jar with the little glass lid that just sits there. If you don't put a lid on it, you will find that animals decide to go and live in there. So use a lid. You will need digital scales. You can do this with like tablespoon to tablespoon. However, that's where I failed when I made starter. So the only way I will make a starter now is with digital scales, gram to gram. So it's 1 to 1 to 1. So when I say 1 to 1 to 1, what am I talking about? I am talking about 1 part flour, 1 part water, and then when you have a starter to feed, 1 part starter. So let me just go through this. Stay with me, hang on. You want to get yourself a chopstick, okay? Bamboo, wood, something like that. You want a clean jar, digital scales, plain flour, not bleached, and water. If you can avoid chlorinated water by filtering it, that would be best. That's tank water, so we don't have anything to worry about with chlorine there. Okay, you want to start off by turning on your scales and making sure it reads 0 with the jar on top. In your clean jar, add 50 grams of plain flour. And then 50 grams of water. Oh, okay. Now what I've accidentally done here is added 70. So what I'll do is bring my flour up to match my water. Okay, so I've got 70 of water. So I just need to add 20 more grams of flour. But if you work on a 50 gram ratio, you won't end up wasting too much flour. Okay, give that a mix with your wooden stick. It should be gummy but moist. That's the texture you're looking for, okay? Make sure you've well mixed it. That's what you're looking for, okay? With a small silicone spatula here, I'm just going to clean the edge of my jar. Why? Because you're growing wild yeast in here. We don't want crusty, gross bits on the edge of the jar, so clean jars are nice. Okay, a little bit on the edge is not an issue, but like that, all right? Pop his lid on and just set it aside. I'm just going to leave it on the counter. And that is step one in making your starter. Every day we are going to come back and we are going to feed this. Making a starter from scratch is a patience exercise. You do need to be patient. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need to do. You can mark this here if you want. There's not going to be any growth overnight for me, so I'm not going to bother doing that. But in the meantime, set that aside. Not in direct sun, just somewhere like on the shelf or something, okay? What I am also going to show you is if you don't have patience and you don't want to make yourself starter from scratch, or you would like to make sourdough a little bit quicker than that, another option is dehydrated sourdough starter. Now this is my starter. It's about 18 months to 3 years old. I can't remember which age this one actually is. And what I've done here is taken some of my starter that was unfed, which is also called discard, and I have put it in my dehydrator on a temperature of 37 until it was dried out. I want to get all the moisture out of it. Then I have just stored it in this recyclable jar. I've popped one of those little moisture absorbers in there, but I'll show you. So you can buy dehydrated starter already, and there's probably instructions that would come with it. But if you were to be given some dehydrated starter, or if you find that you want to, what's the word? Have some insurance on your starter when you've got your active starter, in case you kill it, which is why I did this, is to dehydrate some starter when you've got an abundance. That way, in case it dies for any reason, it's a 3-day wake-up call. Okay, so in 3 days from activating this, I can use it to bake. Whereas my new fresh starter is going to take, you know, a month to develop enough activity to be able to really leaven a bread and make it beautiful and spongy. Okay, so if you have access to dehydrated starter and you can hang on for 3 days, then this is how we rehydrate it. It's very simple. Again, you want to get yourself a clean jar, and this is just, there we go. You want to take out some starter. It doesn't matter too much how much of it you're going to use. When I've seen it for sale, it was usually about 15 to 30 grams that's for sale. So that's 10 grams there. And to that, all I'm going to do is add some water. So I've added 30 grams of water. It doesn't matter that it's a little bit out of whack ratio-wise, because right now, all I actually want to do is hydrate this, okay? So that's all I need to do today. Lid on, not tight, it's just sitting there. Set it aside. Come back and check that tomorrow. Next, the third way you can get yourself some starter is to get your hands on someone else's discard, okay? So this is discard. So, what is discard? Discard is just unfed starter, okay? I'm not sure why it's got its own name, but it does. All right, now if you can see, this lives in my fridge. Now, if you've been following along my YouTube channel for a little while, you will have seen that I've got some discard recipes out there. And that's why I saved this, mainly for the crackers, because we really love those discard crackers. So this is not a waste product. This is just a different usage of starter, okay? This lives in your fridge. As long as your fridge is cold, it won't die. This has, if you can see, we have a layer of what is called hooch on the top here, okay? To smell it, it's quite vinegary. but it doesn't have mold on it, okay? Mold would be black, it would be pink. This has got a little bit of white, if you can see that. That is okay, all right? We don't want to see black, we don't want to see pink. If we start seeing those things, dump it, it's gone, okay? But while it looks like this, it's fine, okay? This is just unfed starter. So if you have a friend or a family member who has active starter, they might be able to gift you some discard. And all you would do is take some discard. I'm just going to mix that hooch in. Some people like to pour it off. I don't, purely because that's where the tang is going to come from, okay, for your sourdough. So I'm happy for that to be in there. It's just a part of starter anyway. Okay, now if someone was to gift you some of this, I'll show you how we would make this into active, ready to live starter. Okay, so you're going to need another clean jar. I'm deliberately using different jars here to show you different ways of getting your starter going, okay, so that we can identify them, and I will mark them as well. So what you want to do is get a clean jar. This is to get some active starter, or if you kill your starter, if you forget to feed it and it's living on the bench, but you have a jar of this in your fridge, you don't need to stress, you don't need to start from scratch. You can just revive some of your discard, okay? So clean jar, all right. This one, we're going to do the 1 to 1 to 1, all right? So 50 grams. Okay, I've done 56 there. So then I want to add 50 grams of water. Hopefully I can get it right this time. Okay, and then 50 grams of flour. This one should be ready to use tomorrow. Because it's cold, it's going to need some waking up. So again, just using our bamboo stick. Chopstick is perfect. Give that a good mix. That is now fed, okay? So that is 3 really simple ways to get yourself starter. Okay, so as of tomorrow, the discard one will be ready to use. In about 3 days, the dehydrated one will be ready to use. And then in about a month, if you want to start from scratch, the from scratch one will be ready to use. So this is what they look like from scratch. Option 1. Option 2, get yourself some dehydrated starter from a friend or online. And option 3, feed somebody else's discard or your own. Okay? And what I'm also going to do, what we do next with all 3 of them will be this next step, what I'm going to do today. This is, as I said, my starter that I made 2 batches with yesterday. 2 batches of sourdough, they're currently in my fridge. So what I need to do today is feed this. It looks just like the discard, but without the hooch on top, okay? So what I'm going to do is feed my starter. So to feed your starter, all you do is 50 grams Now what do I do with this? Well, this gets put into my discard like that. then that will go in the fridge. Okay? Then to this, I want to add 50 grams of water. And 50 grams of flour. You do not need to use baker's flour. You do not need to use special flour for your starter. Just plain old regular unbleached flour is fine. If you want to use other flours for your loaves of sourdough, that's where you can incorporate those. That's my starter today. And in a couple of hours, when I come back to make a loaf of bread, that will be bubbly. So what I will do is I'm going to grab myself a pen and I'm going to mark here. That is where it came to when I fed it this morning. Okay, so later on it'll be up here somewhere and then I'll know that I can use it. Okay, so I thought I'd just show you that's how I feed my starter. And that step there, that's all I do every day. If I'm not going to bake a bread today, which I won't, I don't need to, I'm just going to feed it in the morning, set it aside, and tomorrow repeat the process. If I need to take a holiday, I have had enough of trying to keep this thing alive, I'm not baking sourdough right now, this can just live in the fridge, unfed, and it will essentially turn into just another jar of discard, but feeding it a couple of days and we will be able to use it again. Okay, but because I made bread yesterday using this and I will make bread probably tomorrow, I will just feed it today, feed it every day, keep it out on the counter. As long as I can remember to feed it, we're not going to have a problem. Okay, and that's all feeding is. So maintaining a starter isn't hard work at all. It just is a thing you need to do in the morning.